Hello everyone, I'm Fiona Devell from FionaDevell.com. Welcome to Hometalk. We're going to get started right away. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my, clearly my craft knife. I'm just going to cut the pool noodle. Now if you want to, you can completely measure and have as many as you like, all the same size. It's nice. You can do this, and you can also use different size pool noodles, so the fatter ones, the thinner ones, or even that kind of insulation foam. I'm going to do a slightly longer one here now. I'll cut these in half, and that is step one of our making of Christmas birch logs or holiday birch logs. I've cut my craft paper, and I just wanted to show you that I've made sure it overlaps a little bit, so it's a little bit wider than the actual pool noodle itself. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put the pool noodle to one side. I'm going to take my craft paper, I'm going to scrunch it up into a ball, and then I'm going to unscrunch it, and I'm going to do it the same way, so it's got lots of nice creases in it. I'm going to really squeeze that hard. And then, once I've actually done that, you can see we've got all the creases in the paper, and I am going to just rip it into strips. And these strips are going to form the bark on our birch logs we're creating. Very simple, very straightforward. As I pull these across, the next thing I'm thinking about is making sure that I have got a little bit of extra paper. So this is the paper, it's 2 layers here. I'm going to take my pool noodle and I'm just going to draw around it in a circle using the pool noodle as a template. This is going to form the ends. Now if you want to, you could of course use cardstock or something else for this. I'm just going to do this and cut out both at the same time, just to get that circular shape to stick on the ends of our birch logs. Now I'm going to take some glue, and you can use Mod Podge, Decoupage glue. I've got some tacky glue here, but I'm actually going to take the lid off this. I find it easier to squeeze it out in the big lump. I'm going to squidge some into here, and I'm actually going to add a little bit of water to it. This glue is a little bit too thick for my purposes, so just a quick drop of water, maybe a touch more than that, and I'm going to give it a quick mix up with my paintbrush. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my pool noodle and I'm going to add some glue around this top area here. So this is the first part of our little attraction that is going to be the birch trees. Let's pop that there, and I'm just going to find the flat end of my paper. So there we go, so that's the straight edge. And I'm literally going to just squish it onto there, pull it around. I'm letting it overlap slightly at the top here. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to get to the end, I'm going to pop a little bit of glue there and push her down. So there we go, we've got our first piece of birch tree on there. Now, I think there's probably enough there for the next layer. I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. And there's no need for precision on this. No need to get it absolutely perfect. Just like all my projects, we like to have a little bit of play and a little bit of messing around so that precision isn't the thing that we're worried about. There we go. So that's the next one. And exactly the same thing again until we've covered the entire piece of pool noodle with this brown paper. I'll do one more for you and then I will move on to the next step. So there we go. We have got pool noodle, we have got brown paper, and there we go, just fix that end piece, and there she is. Now if you want to wear gloves when you're doing this, you do that. There we go, I'm going to carry on doing this and I'll come back to you when I've got it completely covered. So now that I've actually attached all of the brown paper, this is what your log stroke pool noodle should look like. The next step is we're just going to add some glue to this top part here, because we're going to put the end of our log on, that little circular piece of paper that we cut out a few minutes ago. So let's pop that onto there. And again, no need to be too precise about this. We'll pop it on there, and there we go. Now I'm going to go leave this to dry and we'll move on to the next step. The next surprising part with this particular craft is I'm going to be using some TP. So I'm just going to take a couple of pieces of TP and I'm going to attach them just like this to my log. So all I'm going to do is scrunch it up, get a little bit of the glue, pop that on there, and I'm just going to leave it on there to just kind of sit there all on its own. It's not going to really do anything for now, it's just going to sit there so that they look like this, almost like little roses. And these are going to form the nubs on the actual birch log where branches would have been. I'm now going to take some white paint. I'm going to use Dixie Belle Chalk Mineral Paint here in cotton. You could use any particular acrylic paint or any white paint that you want to, even house paint if you've got some left over. I'm just going to mix a little bit into here, and I'm just going to water it down ever so slightly. I want it to be not quite a wash, but not quite as thick as it actually is. So a couple of drops of water in there. I'm going to mix that up. Again, it looks very similar to the glue we were using a minute ago. I just want it to be just nicely mixed up and not too strong. I'm then going to move out of the way, and I'm going to lightly cover my birch tree in a first coat of this paint. And this is the first coat of paint. I'm not really going to paint over the TP just for now. You can if you want to, but I'm just wanting to get this first coat of paint on here just to give it that very first initial texture. So let me continue that and we'll move on to the next step. So after one coat of paint, this is what your log will look like, something along these lines. What I then did is I actually added a second coat of paint, so you can see it's kind of a little bit more depth to it, a little bit more hidden. I've squished down these pieces of TP a little bit more. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to take my Dixie Belle paint in Caviar, which is kind of a really, really dark, almost black colour. And I am going to just add a little drop of that to this white paint that I've got here. I'm just going to mix that in. So we're going to kind of create an almost grey colour. And I'm going to add a little bit more water to that as well, because we want to create a wash to go over the top of this. And we actually want the white paint to be, this grey paint to be very, very watery, because we want it to do its job on the TP and make it squish down a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit more black to that. I haven't quite got enough in there, I don't think. Let's see how we go with that. Mix that up a little bit more. And there you go, you can see it's just a slight light grey, very, very watery, really not all that different to what it was before. And then I'm going to push it and just pull it all the way across. And I'm not rubbing particularly hard with my brush. I'm just letting the water do the work and just create that texture. Remember from where we had the crunched up paper. And then when I come to the TP, I'm just going to saturate that a little bit on there. So it just saturates down a bit, and then we'll pull this along the log. And if you wanted to, you could paint, this way around or whichever way around you wanted to. I'm just going to do very, very light, oh, careful not to knock my water over. Very, very light strokes all the way around the log. I'm not even going to wait for my paint to dry, and I'm going to start playing with these little bits. So I've got some brown artist paint here, just acrylic from the dollar store, and some of the black as well. And this is where we're going to apply a little bit of artistic license here. We're just going to make our stick, where the sticks sort of come out, just look a little bit more tonal, have a little bit more fun with those. There you go, you can see just how they're looking. A little bit of brown in there as well as the black, and it mixes with the grey. And it's a very organic look, so you don't need to be, as I always say to you, no need for precision. And do the same just on here, a little bit of the brown mixed in with the black, and it just gives us a much more kind of natural look, as though that's what the actual sticks would be. Oh, yes, I've got them. There you go. I think that's kind of cool. So what we're now going to do is, I have this paint on the plate in front of me. Let me move that out of the way. And I've got, this is a squeegee that I use all the time. It's a silicone squeegee. Now, you could use a gift card, an old gift certificate, anything you like. And we're going to just put this across. I'm going to start thinking about making some of those little birch tree marks. So all I'm doing is putting a little bit of paint on here and then just making those birch tree marks. Very organic, very random. And I'm going to carry on doing that all the way around. And then I will probably do a second wash over the top once the paint has dried. I have created 3 slightly different looks on here. So this one I think is probably the most realistic at this stage, with just the black edging. This one, a little bit of black and brown, probably went a little bit too hard on there, but that's okay. And then this one, I actually did look just like this one, and then I did a wash of white over the top. So I just wanted to show you 3 different ways that you can do this. What I'm now going to do, I'm actually going to take some metallic paint. This is kind of like a, I don't know what colour you'd call this. It's just a lovely, what's it called? Moonstone. Kind of a pale glittery colour. And I want to just add a little wash of this to the top of my final thing, simply because when you see these birch trees, they do tend to have a little bit of shine to them. So I'm adding just a little bit of water to that. I'm going to take a wider brush. I'm just going to mix that together and just have this very light wash. I'm going to add a little bit more water to that because we don't want it to cover up the pattern that we've made. We just want it to provide a little bit of shimmer, and look, you can see that is just gorgeous on there. So I am going to just add this onto the top, and you can see it's not taking away the colour. I'm not going to paint it over the top of my little branches, but I'm just going to wash it all the way around. Who would have thought that pool noodles, a little bit of craft paper and a tiny little bit of TP and paint would create these gorgeous reusable logs. Birch logs, very pretty, very holiday-like, and you can use them over and over again each year. I know I always have pool noodles left over at the end of every summer, and this to me is a perfect way to use them. I hope you've enjoyed this make. I've loved showing you how to do it. My name is Fiona DeBell, and I will see you next time here on Home Talk.